Hello Collective and welcome back to the channel. It's Al. Today's video is going to center around exactly what the title says. It is a question to Mr. Elon Musk, and it has to do with the wonderful piece that I came across recently on Are We a Simulation? And I even posted it to my LinkedIn account because I have been speaking to this possibility for about 2 to 3 years now, whether in book, article, or on video. And the reason I found it interesting is because not only is it one of the most brilliant minds in the entire world, but he comes across exceedingly humble. And one of the things that I wanted to ask him about this particular hypothesis is something that I myself have been wondering. You see, we seem to be living in a period of transition in our world, whether you believe it's simulation or not. And in that, I've noticed that it's bringing together a lot of the most brilliant minds in different ways, and it's bringing a center point for a lot of people to focus their attention on. In spiritual terms, where I come from, in the breadcrumb that I've been led down in the simulation, we speak to something called ascension, which is essentially leveling up. And it has to do with the theory that we as souls are evolving in the Great Academy, and we're being led in a direction that will separate the herd. That which is redundant is being kind of removed from the scenario, and the stage is being reset, essentially. And it started to make me think back to Mr. Musk in this particular piece. Obviously, the brilliant mind is the leader of the pack, but what I found interesting was that he was referencing the idea that it is a simulation. And so I wanted to put my 2 cents in here and ask a direct question to Mr. Musk, because I don't have any direct way of getting a hold of him except this. But if we're living in a simulation, could it possibly not be so much a simulation, but a memory? A memory that is being created to course correct something that could have been done a little sooner, possibly, if certain people, players, in the simulation had been brought together to work something out. And the reason I've been thinking about that is because it makes me think of when you are in a simulation or some sort of computer hologram. One of the things that you can do to really fuck with that particular system is to throw a virus in there. Interesting, huh? And so let's say that you are trying to remove redundancy from the game, that it's too many players on the board and they need to break it down in order for the simulation to process properly and do the leveling up, moving on up, if you will. Then it would stand to reason that we are now bridging the worlds between spirituality and science. Because in spiritual terms, we would be referencing the great architect under the name of God, Allah, or whomever. But it still doesn't change the fact that that belief system keeps you always looking up and keeps you moving towards education, towards information. Whereas in science, it would be literally a grand architect, the creator of the simulation, who is now trying to engage the players and moving into a collective venture in order to do the next level, the jump that needs to happen for society in the simulation. And I wondered, for Mr. Musk directly, if that was the case, could it not be then a memory placed into the hologram, so as to get the people who would already have made the jump in the future, let's say, together earlier in order to possibly naturally course correct something that may go wrong down the road. And I thought it would be an interesting hypothesis, well, actually a question for the panel of brilliant minds out there, because I still have that question that I asked like 2 months ago, and so now I'm going to redirect it to Mr. Musk. I had said, if you created a simulation, or if you created a race, if you will, and they were hybrids between, I don't know, robot and actual animal, and that they were the cross-section between them in the simulation, then could you program spirituality into the game players themselves so as to always help their controllers navigate them in better and better directions, almost like getting them to follow the flow of things, which is a big thing in spiritual circles, to follow the flow and not go against the grain, but to understand that you are living in some sort of simulation, whether it's a memory or not. And it made me wonder then, who are the controllers? Could it be advanced races? Or could it be that we are indeed a simulation? And if so, why do we have so much fear? And I realized that that would be part of the game. The simulation would be to overcome one's fears in order to be able to do what? To level up. And for some reason, it made me think of that Pinocchio story about the little boy the little wood boy who wanted to be a real boy. And I wondered if, in the grand scheme of things, If not only are some people who are very spiritual making their way towards mastery and to becoming an elder, if you will, in spiritual terms, but that scientists may have an opposite side where they can become, I don't know, the controllers of the simulation, who will be adding their own flair to the simulation down the road. But in order to do that, all of the players that are in the game must follow their own breadcrumbs, their intellect, wisdom, and the ability to discern logic from illogic, and be able to then question things enough to follow the little yellow brick road in order to do what? To level up. And I wondered what that would look like. And suddenly it dawned on me that I've been driven with this inner monologue that's been coming from somewhere to bring together a turquoise leadership, a leadership of the most brilliant minds who are here to help the collective navigate these uncertain waters, because I've noticed that we've all been going in different directions. And so how do you herd sheep? You focus them. You surround them by certain events that are playing out, and you get them to all start moving in the direction. Those that refuse to follow it seem to be removed from the scenario in this simulation theory. However, those that are moving in the right direction, are they moving towards a new stage reset? Are there new key players that are being introduced to the game that are now part of a leadership that will help the rest of the players move forward and make the evolutionary jump needed for the simulation to proceed? After all, it does appear that because everybody had been going in different directions, like I had said about a year and a half ago, sometimes you have to introduce a new threat to the environment in order to get everyone on the same page. And I started to think about something as random as maybe a shift in the poles and how that would play out in a simulation. Because I've noticed that in the simulation that we reside in, I have absolutely no fear of the death process, but I am noticing that the ring of fire is on fire and that things are moving. And I wondered what you all thought about that query. What if those were being introduced into the environment in order to stage the new set for the new players to come together in a turquoise leadership and start to work on the evolutionary jump needed for society? And could that be part of the course correction that the grand designer, the architect behind all things, is interested in now? And I thought about it more and more, and the more I thought about it, I realized that I might be one of those players. After all, it's a drive that I have, and it's something that I really, really am passionate about, the idea of bridging the worlds of spirituality and science, and sharing what the journey was with each other, in order to better understand how the game is set and what is happening around us. And within the comments, I think it was Mr. Tyson who had mentioned that it's a game and that it reflects and mirrors a game, and the setting that the virtual reality sensation that we are experiencing is getting more progressively advanced with each day. And I couldn't help but notice earlier, I think it was a year ago, I mentioned that it's coincidental that as we go to the 5D, the fifth dimension, we are also going 5G in the physical world. And I thought, well, isn't that more than just a little coincidental? And so I wondered if the brilliant mind of Mr. Musk might be interested in talking to someone like me, who sees the world in a very similar way, but came from a different direction, and what that means about the controllers, or if you will, the architect, and why certain brains are being focused in the same direction. Is there a correlation, and are we supposed to do something about it? Are we supposed to just allow the simulation to do and run its course? Because we are supposed to let it go through. But then how do we, as the new leaders of tomorrow, how do we come together in a simulated experience? And I thought about what the Holy Scriptures had said, that they would meet in these clouds, and I realized the internet. So here's my shot, Mr. Musk. What do you think about what I've said? Do you think it's possible that we're all being directed towards higher guidance because the stage needs to be reset in order to bring us to the next level? I wonder what y'all would think about that. That's it for me, guys. For Al on Altruistic Channels. Please check that channel out, or check this one out, Al Altruistic Channels Arevalo. And I thank you guys for your time.